Now beginning transmission 140. Underwater Welder. File under family drama.
Come on, you fuckers think that just because a guy reads comics he can't start some shit? I'll fucking take all you want!
Welcome to this week's episode of the Funny Books and Firewater Podcast.
面白い本と歌手ポッドキャストの今週のエピソードへようこそ。
Ignore her. She drinks.
Each week a motley band of comic readers / amateur bartenders attempt to pair cocktails with comic books.
毎週漫画の読書の雑多なバンドはスラッシュアマチュア入札しようと漫画とペアカクテルバーです。
All while trying to not sound like complete morons in the
すべ
process.
ての中にしようとして音ではないような完了プロセスで低能です。
Kind of like a speakeasy kind of thing. It's kind of cool.
You can find these idiots on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr.
Facebook、Twitter、Instagram や Tumblr にこれらのバカを検索できます。
No, what?
You read too many comic books.
We now join Brian, Jeremiah, Adam, and Todd.
They're used to curious sights which they attribute to alcoholic delusions.
They may be drinkers, Robin, but they're also human beings.
I'm too sober for this shit. Here is a drinking game to play while you listen to this episode. Please drink responsibly, and don't take it too seriously. And if you don't like it, blame William.
Take a drink anytime Mr. Porg decides to interject himself into the conversation. Shut up, Porg.
You need to take a drink anytime Manny Bothands makes an appearance, and I get groans and fuck yous from Adam and Maya.
Fuck Manny Bothands!
Manny Bothands is pure genius. Take a drink anytime someone refers to me as the cum dumpster.
Take a drink every time the Shame Bell makes an appearance.
Also, take a drink anytime we act like the member berries from South Park. Remember when they were on South Park?
I remember.
Yeah, and take a drink every time we do the bad German accent, yeah.
Ah, drink, fucker!
If you have any suggestions for rules you would like to add, email us at funnybooksandfirewater@gmail.com or use the contact link on our website, funnybooksandfirewater.com.
I do.
I think I got that documented for your daughter.
As one
Daddy,
should.
what's a mustache ride?
Why are you always hanging out with Uncle Adam? That's weird. Mommy cries every time you go and hang out with Uncle Adam. Why is that?
Because she said I could.
Only if you want to.
That's right.
Cool. Welcome to episode 140 of the Funny Books and Firewater podcast. Hooray, we've made it this far without killing each other. Hooray!
140 weekly episodes. When we have a lost one, right?
We do have a lost one that hasn't come out yet.
Okay.
Which I would, I'm saving it for either when we desperately are in need of putting something out there and we haven't done anything, or I might just put it back out next Pride and we'll just,
Say, here you go.
That was actually also an episode I really liked that book, too.
Yeah,
we all loved it.
Exit Stage Left.
Yeah.
That was great.
Oh, that one never got put out?
No, because it was one of those things where it's like I was working in Utah and I realized that I hadn't even started editing it, and it was supposed to come out at midnight, and I was driving home from the theater at 11 o'clock at night, and I was like, well, that's not fucking happening. So, and I was in the middle of tech rehearsals for some show. I don't even remember what show it was, but I was in tech rehearsals for some show.
Come on, Brian, what do we pay you for?
I don't know. They already paid me. I already spent the money.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Brian gets... I'm going to give you double the raise, Brian.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just like the M&M spokespeople.
Double the raise for what I'm currently making to do this show?
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks, man.
No problem. I'm happy to do so.
I appreciate that.
So what am I paying you right now? Oh, yeah.
Nothing. Not a damn thing. 0 times 2 is still 0. Hooray.
Math is fun.
Hey, don't tell that to Terrence Howard.
I guess if you count how much money I spend on this, that might go into negative numbers. So, I might owe you more money or something like that. But
so, we'll make it up in volume. Don't worry.
Sure. I don't see the logic of that at all, but that's okay. Cool.
By the way, join our Patreon.
Yeah.
No, we don't have a
There's no Patreon.
No.
We could start selling Viagra pills or something. I don't know.
I think there's a very small market for that. No pun intended. Look up Blue Chew.
Blue Chew?
They're
Is it Viagra gum?
They're Viagra like chewables that are off-brand that you can just get over the internet.
So for grown-ass men who can't swallow
Oh
a
my
pill, they
God.
have to have chewables? Like that's
I hear they're awesome.
until after 4 hours and you have to go to the hospital.
You know, I imagine Hugh Hefner to have something to say about that.
Yeah, a couple other podcasts I listen to have been promoting it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just,
Well, we're not getting paid to promote it, so let
No,
them
we're
promote
not.
it.
So fuck Blue Chew and screw
Yeah.
you guys. Unless you want to pay us money, then
or
call me.
Or send us product to try out, then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, what do we want? Free shit.
Yeah.
When do we want it? We don't care.
All right.
So, going back to that conversation, I keep on getting ads on Facebook for, like, erectile dysfunction pills. And I'm like, do you know something I don't?
It's because
You're a
when
man
you're
of a certain age.
it's because when you're home, but when you're asleep, I go and talk about erectile dysfunction by your phone, so Facebook listens to me.
I'm so happy for that.
There you go.
Yeah, that is a creepy feature, by the way. That's another part of the reason why I'm not really on Facebook ever anymore. But, oh well, that's how it goes.
It's just Amazon's doing it more stealthier than they are.
I don't even think it's that stealthy. I still, like, I will
I
talk
said
about
stealthier.
Yeah. Sure. Anyway, so welcome to episode 140. We're doing our month of family drama for the holidays. Do we call it family drama? We call it family drama. I think that's what it's called.
Sure. Everyone just loves each other. Peace, love, and harmony.
Peace, love, and harmony, or not so much.
Other thing.
That other thing. So this week we are doing Underwater Welder, written and illustrated by Jeff Lemire, my boyfriend, the love of my comic book life.
Proves that not all Canadians are bad.
Hashtag not all Canadians.
Not all Canadians. There's some very fine people on both sides of that border. Very fine
Both sides.
people. Both sides of that border.
There was a great thing on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart back when it was him about this like old dude like in Idaho who would sit at the Canadian-Idaho-U.S. border to watch for like people trying to legally cross.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, did a whole interview with him too. It was amazing.
Did he ever see anybody?
I believe he did, but I think it was people just fucking with him.
Oh,
because
I'd be tempted.
This is back in the good old days when Obama was in office. So people actually wanted to come to America
before the dark times.
Before the dark
Empire.
times.
Yeah.
And he who must not be named.
Speaking of that, that'll have to do with maybe one more. I don't know. I'm going to recommend something else. So last night I did. I've met a group of people I've worked with who were all like programmers and troubleshooters by trade. Like that's literally what we do. We have gotten into doing a lot of escape rooms, which I don't know if they're as popular in Utah, but in California there are a fuck ton of them out here, like an epic fuck ton. And the one we did last night was actually Harry Potter themed. It was based off of the Chamber of Secrets, and we escaped. We were 10 minutes off of the record. Like if we'd done it, like which is
10 minutes is a long time.
Yeah, that's all.
It really is.
It's
actually no, it wasn't. It was 1 minute. I'm sorry, I was doing the math wrong. Yes, because the record was 13 minutes left. We had 12 minutes left, so we were a minute off. Oh, yeah, sorry. I was thinking of a different escape room.
Sure you were.
You can escape my room. In my chamber of secrets.
Your chamber of secrets.
They're not so secret. This chamber has no windows and no doors.
But it's got a tunnel.
See, I've talked about theater. Mr. Korg has made an appearance. We just need to talk in German accents, and we're going to get everybody fucked up.
Don't do that.
Oh, yeah. It's time to drink, you fuckers. Yeah.
So going back a little bit to He Should Not Be Named, so sometimes I hear him referenced just as 45 because where he falls in line. And it really recasts the song by Shinedown talking about him in a 45. And there's not a lot left going on.
So as much as I knew it wouldn't have happened, I was, just to be spiteful and petty, after they started, printing up all this stuff that, Trump 45th president of the U.S., blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I was really hoping that Obama would just step down and let Biden become president for like a day. So they would just fuck up.
And just make him 146. You're going to have the job for a day.
It was petty and spiteful, and of course it wouldn't happen, but I read something on Twitter about that. I was like, that would be so fucking amazing. Like, how great would that be?
That'd be
fucking
awesome.
let Biden be the president for a week. Like, give him a full week. Just call it good,
Unky Joe.
Unky Joe. By the way, Unky Joe, please don't run for president in 2020.
Yes, don't
or
do that.
Hillary.
No, you know who I think should run? The only person who I really think would... Actually, it's a slightly terrible idea. I think Oprah should run.
No.
Because she'd fucking win. That's
what
why.
about... No, we should get The Rock. The Rock would win.
I'd be down if
a Rock Oprah ticket.
Here's the thing. I would actually probably vote for The Rock, but the problem would be is we would be way too close to Idiocracy. Because, like, you have, like, a big muscular guy in office, like... what's his name in Idiocracy?
I need to watch that again. I haven't seen that in decades.
Ted Cruz is the president in Idiocracy.
President Comanche, right, or something?
That's right, President Comanche. Yep. That's right. Yeah. Anyway,
The Rock would give the people's elbow to Russia.
Sorry, what was that?
The Rock would give the people's elbow to Russia.
That would be amazing, actually, right?
Panel intro.
Speaking of the people's elbow, I don't know what that means. We have Mr. Adam.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Adam with Big Shiny Robot. Occasionally, the Bored as Hell podcast with Andy Wilson.
Hi, Andy. And Andy, I've got an idea for your podcast I'll do for the Hall of Greatness.
Ooh.
Talk to me.
Oh, also, yeah, and call me up or text me. I have an idea. I'm going to be visiting a location which will give me more information to be able to do an episode with you. So we'll discuss.
All right.
I'll just text him right now.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, I can do that too.
You also find me
But I know Andy listens, so I want to say hi to Andy.
See?
I've been talking to him today, so we've been talking about the CW show, DC shows.
Gotcha.
You can also find me over at Cinema Queens with our good friend Chris.
Hi, Chris.
And what's funny is since we're doing family-themed comics for December, for the month of December, we've been doing John Waters films because nothing says, Christmas like the gift only a mother can give.
Right.
So,
like a dancing asshole?
The dancing, no. That's the one where Divine blows her son. They show her blowing this guy on TV. So it's just lovely. But yeah, doing all that. And then you can also check me over at Twitter at SithBot_. That's SITHBOT_. And then, of course, curating our Grindr, Scruff, and Tights with a Z account.
Also giving the gift that only a mother can give, we have Mr. Maya.
Hey, I'm Maya. I do things and stuff. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Maya, Instagram at the Mr. Maya, or if you want to follow my cat, she has her own phone and opposable digits and posts pictures on Instagram and Twitter at It's the Jonesy.
She's really good at selfies.
She's
like really good.
Yeah, she's great at like setting the camera up and putting on a time delay so it takes a picture of her laying down.
That's pretty impressive. It really is.
How else do we paint her like French horse?
What'd you call my cat?
A French horse.
Yeah. She puts on lipstick.
We are all whores in our own way.
Yeah, we are very whorish.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Speaking of very whorish, we have Mr. Jason. I don't know why I did that to you, Jason. I just had to segue that way.
It works for our relationship. It's all good.
Okay, that's cool.
I'm an independent writer in Los Angeles, which just means I'm unemployed.
Yay!
And
but
you can't find me on
a waiter. Because if you're an actor, you'd be a waiter.
Right, I've done that before.
Oh, okay.
And you cannot find me on social media, and I like it that way.
Yes. That's probably a wise decision, actually.
Yes.
It makes me a happier person in general, really.
You have nothing to apologize for 5-10 years from now.
I still do, just not in the public sphere.
That's fair.
Well, having tons to apologize for in the public sphere, we have Mr. Todd.
That's the whole story of my life, isn't it? But if I've learned anything, is it doesn't matter. Just keep going. Hey, I'm Todd. You can find me here on this show. I also do English class hooligans with Brian, the scat herder, as well as my better half, Amy.
The scat herder?
Yeah, that too.
that's true too.
That happens. So we're working on an episode there. You'll see something soon, I hope. And I'm here in some.
You have more faith than I do, but okay.
Do you? Do I?
I don't know.
We'll see.
Here's the thing. I feel like when you have a baby on the way, all bets are off, and I have no. I'm like, well, we'll get to it when we get to it. My mother is chomping at the bit for a new episode.
See, Mom, but, that's great, and I love your mother is my mother in many ways.
That is very, very.
It is. I lived at your house more than
after
mine.
You told me. I know, and when you told me when the baby was coming, the first thing I did was call my mom and let her know as well.
That's
so she's
adorable.
excited for you.
No, it's exciting, and that's good. But yeah, we'll see. At the same time, we'll see how wrong my views on what life will be. So,
yeah, you're like, oh, it'll be fine. We'll have plenty of time to record it. The baby will be quiet for an hour.
Why not? So,
I nearly died laughing when you guys
Just give her
said
some
that.
NyQuil.
You know, I've got some daddy's medicine downstairs. So
Grandpa's cough syrup from last week's
that's
episode.
right. And, you know, and this latest thing is we still haven't settled on a name. And I keep doing these things. So I'm liking 4-letter words that end in P. And I'm like, well, what can I name here? I'm like, what sounds so ridiculous, over the top, but yet they're going, is he serious? He might be serious. So the one I've been digging lately is Shakespeare, Cleopatris, Isabella, and we can call her Skip. And when people go, I mean, and it's how to make a little shit, because like, who do you think you are, Shakespeare? And she goes, yes.
Wow.
See, isn't that just awful?
It's something.
It is something. It's great.
It's true. Now here's the question for me: do you want me to edit out your last name from that?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, future Brian. Current Todd is an asshole.
No, it's fine.
So,
current Brian listened to that and said, future Todd's going to want me to future edit that out.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah, you and I need to talk later about something else. So,
yep. Okay, cool.
That too. It's part of it. So, with my kid, we're going to go back to this because I'm rambling. I don't give a shit. I am totally so. To make this kid happen was a group effort, and there was twin Asian girls involved, and there was lots of people watching, and this is all true. And I kind of want to encapsulate that story somehow and forever enshrine it. So, so this kid happened because of IVF. So you had doctors and nurses and people making sure other people weren't doing anything unbecoming, even though someone had like their arms like up to the elbow inside, moving stuff around. And all of that was going on, and you're just like, all right. But the first picture we have of this kid is that the embryo was 7 years old.
7 days years?
7 years. Well, here's where it gets interesting, is they froze it for like a month. So they put it in stasis for a month. So how old is it? I don't know. So you can do like the most awesome conception party ever for this kid each year. Because like, which day is like, oh, we know. And we've got it right there. It's good fun. All right. So there's your lesson of TMI, kids. Let's keep going.
Okay. And hey, I'm Brian.
Follow that shit.
I'm based out of California. Yeah, I'm just going to plow on through it. It'll be fine.
That's what she said.
I do stuff. I also, yeah.
Shut up, Torg.
Nobody was elbow deep in you, Pork.
Not yet.
How does Pork say yeepers?
So yeah.
Anyway, Brian.
Sorry.
I do shit. Whatever. It's we're too far gone at this point in time.
Book intro.
So Underwater Welder, as we described last week, and we will describe again here, is a story of a man named, I think it's
Jack.
John. It's Jack Jones, Joshua, something like that, something with a J. Anyway, so it is about this man. He is an underwater welder. It is coming upon the anniversary of his father's death, but it's also he is about to become a father himself. Jack Joseph is his name. So this follows the story of Jack Joseph feeling the pressures, literally and figuratively, of about to become a new father and dealing with the death of his own father at about the same age that his father became a father, and also the pressures of, literally being underwater welding. And so it's the metaphor is not hidden here at all, kids. But so that's sort of the basic gist of where we get started on this book. Does that sound fair to everybody?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Myification.
So, Todd, what would be the myification for this book?
We've got Canadian Twilight Zone of impending dread.
Okay, I like that. Canadian Twilight Zone of impending dread. Makes it sound darker than it might be, but that's okay.
It's a little bit dark.
Well, it is a little bit dark, no, for sure. It definitely has some darker tones. So let us jump into drinking game rules.
Drinking game.
I'm going to go first. Mine is, this is Halloween. Take a drink every time there's a reference to Halloween, which is referenced a fair amount within this book. Mr. Todd, what is your drinking game rule?
That's a mighty fine mustache. Every time you've seen Jack's dad's mustache, go ahead and take a drink.
Mr. Adam.
So mine's called "Those Cancer Sticks Will Kill You." Whenever anyone's smoking a cigarette.
Cool. Mr. Jason?
Mine is The Dutiful Wife. Anytime Jack says his wife's name, Susan, Susie, or Suze.
And Mr. Maya?
Mine's called Under the Sea. Basically, anytime that a scene starts underwater. So you only have to drink at the beginning of the scene, not as it continues and stays underwater.
It's good you put that stipulation, because otherwise people would be dead.
Yes. Usually I'm not so nice.
It is true. But now we will take votes as to whether or not we believe it is worth your dear listeners.
I thought we were going to do songs.
No, that comes after votes.
Does
Follow the agenda, Maya.
I have an agenda printed out here.
I was going to say, last time I thought it was the other way.
Oh, we did it in order last time, too. Trust me. I have been following this order for at least the last episode.
See?
Okay.
I have not.
I know it's been a week, but I'm glad you're here.
Sorry. That struck me as funnier than it should have.
Validity votes.
So for votes as to whether or not we believe it is worth your dear listeners' hard-earned time, money, and effort to go read this book, we will start with Mr. Maya.
Yes.
Mr. Todd.
Yes.
Mr. Jason.
Yes.
Mr. Adam.
Absolutely.
And I recommended it, so I'm a definite yes as well.
Playlist.
Let us jump into songs for the playlist. Mr. Maya, what is yours?
Mine is One by Three Dog Night.
Did I ever tell you that's actually the first concert I ever went to?
I think you have. Also, your song was the other song that I had playing in my head as I was reading it, and then I saw your text.
I know, that's why
you went for the easy one. That's okay.
That's why I claimed it early, bitches. So we'll go right with that. Mine is "Cats in the Cradle" by Harry Chapin. You could also do is Ugly Kid Joe was the name of the band that did it in the '90s if you really wanted to.
Cat Stevens do it too?
He might have. That wouldn't be surprising. I didn't look that far into it. I just was trying to look for the original, and I was like, I didn't remember who had written it or who had done it originally, I guess. Mr. Todd, what is your song?
It's a classic song, but Filter covered it, so we're going with the Filter cover of One is the Loneliest Number.
The same
song. That's my song.
Fuck you. Mine's done by Filter.
Okay, fine. I have One by Three Dog Night and One by Filter. Mr. Adam, what is yours?
So mine is Father of Mine by Everclear.
You're not going to do one by somebody else?
Come on. We all need to do one
by
song.
Metallica.
I did one by Metallica.
There you go.
Actually, Jason, you have the opportunity to do One by Metallica if you want.
I'm going to pass on that.
Okay, what's your song then?
It is Dance in the Graveyards by Delta Ray.
Well, okay, that seems fancy. I don't even know that band.
Oh, you should. They're lovely.
They are lovely. Do you know them personally?
No, I don't, but their music is great.
Okay. Is this like some sort of LA hipstery band?
Nope.
Okay.
It's actually more North Carolina than LA.
Oh, really? Okay. So I'm putting in One by Metallica in there just for my own personal
Just do it. So we saw, Brian and I went to Big Adventure and we saw Empire of the Sun. Yes. And there were more of a visual, the music was fine. The visuals were odd. And the visuals stuck with me more than the music did. So, yeah.
I heard one of their singles, one of their it's, I guess the thing for me about Empire of the Sun, not for those of you who are fans of them, I don't really want to dissuade you on that. But the thing I thought was interesting is that, like, hearing a song of theirs on the radio, there doesn't, like, what their live performance is versus what you see on the radio did not jive with me. Like, those two things seem very different. Mm-hmm. They put on, like, a really sort of big visual epic show, but their music feels very pared down. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's kind of interesting that way. So, like, I found that odd. But, you know, whatever.
Final warnings.
Does anybody have any final warnings before we go into this book? Anything people feel they should
just
know?
like last week, it's a pretty emotional book.
Yeah, it is.
You should read.
You
should read this book on mushrooms.
Yeah, no, don't do that. I will admit, I cried the first time I read this book. I got a little weepy the second time I read it, but not nearly as much as the first time. But I cried. So, also, you know, I don't know. Maybe I just watched Beaches for one too many times or something like that. But take that for what it's worth. So I don't want to build up too much because I know that Adam didn't cry when he read it. So, you know, he's much more macho than I am. So that take it for what it is. Actually, yeah, he is much more macho than I am. So
not really.
Maybe it isn't as. Yeah, you are. Maybe it's not nearly as sad as I think it is. But I had more baggage going on with my grandfather when I was reading it. So that's probably why. So if you've lost a family member, it might speak to you that way. So yeah. So anybody else have anything else?
Nope, I think that's good.
Go ahead.
Nope.
Dive in.
Dive in? Oh,
But I see
but
what you did there.
Yeah. That's the writer talking right there.
I'm clever.
Hire me.
You know, it's funny when you get Maya to snort. That's fantastic.
Don't put this on your resume.
Or do.
Or do, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, why not? Go for it. Could be fun. So then we will go into our little bit of a break, and we will see you on the flip side. Oh, I should have warned, like, this is your warning that we're going to spoil the hell out of this, but whatever.
If you have yet to read this week's book and would like to read it now, press pause. Go ahead. We'll wait.
Now, sissy that wow.
Hey there! Are you queer or some variation of it? Well, I'm Chris, and this is my co-host,
Adam. And welcome to Cinema Queens, where we talk about queer cinema.
Each week, we watch beloved queer classics, discuss them, review them,
and cover a whole cluster of topics from our favorite scenes,
what they mean to us,
how it relates to our current world,
and the best part, the cherry on top of the sundae, happens to be
gay rants.
So prepare your ear holes
and listen to us Queens talk cinema. New episodes drop every Monday on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Bye-bye.
Yeah, there it is.
Spoily.
Everyone knows the IMDb thing for the Internet Movie Database. Should there be some kind of Internet podcasting database of what podcasts everyone's been on and that sort of thing that's been published at some venue?
Oh my gosh, can you just imagine? Like,
that'd be amazing. The rabbit hole
it would be really difficult to track down.
Oh, it'd be
like you'd almost have.
It's like the movie industry in a lot of ways. I mean, yes, but it's more decentralized. But you could then you can play the games of like who's guested on who and how far does the rabbit hole go. And it's like I'm 3 podcasts away from Alton Brown. Who's on the Nerdist?
Wow.
So it wouldn't take that much to get there.
We just have to have someone who was on the Nerdist on our podcast.
Or someone that was on a podcast that was with someone that was on the Nerdist. So
this is giving me a
for us, it'd be easy to go through Geek Show. Geek Show's probably had someone who had done something with someone who was on the Nerdist.
So let's just we can have Geek Show or were you ever on Geek Show, Adam?
Mm-hmm. So a couple times.
Adam's been on Geek Show, Maya's been on Geek Show, and I've been on Geek Show.
Oh. I haven't. Yeah, that's fine. I don't care.
So we need to get you on Geek Show, Todd. You're the only one who hasn't done it. You and Jason haven't done it.
Sure. Carrie still doesn't even know who I am. I've introduced myself like 4 times, but nobody cares.
But here's the thing. In Carrie's situation, like, I view it as one of those things where, like, he meets so many people all the time. Like, I don't take that kind of thing personally.
Oh, no. I neither do I. I don't care at all. I just say, hi, we've met before. You know my buddy. Oh, yeah, I should talk to him. And, yeah, I mean, it doesn't even enter his sphere.
Thanks for giving away my secret identity on Geek Show.
That's fine.
No, that's not your secret identity. That's you have the other name.
I have a couple of them. Actually. I've used a couple different names on that show.
Yeah,
mainly so I don't get myself fired.
Yeah, future Brian, I would probably cut that out.
Yeah,
yeah, probably wise. I have a lot of editing to do about.
You're welcome, Brian.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's all been my fault so far.
No, it's sort of. No,
it's fine.
Plot summary.
Well, kids, let me tell you about the Underwater Welder. Back in the day. No, so we start out...
Cozy up around the fire, kids.
So what we start out with seems to be sort of like, you're not exactly sure what's going on, but it's a man smoking, looking through his rearview, listening to the radio, and it's talking about how it's going to be a cold Halloween, and he's drinking a beer, and he puts on his scuba gear and walks into the water, and then the ripples transition into... a man, shaving and cleaning his beard in the water. He comes out and he's talking to his wife who is pregnant. They go out to breakfast in the morning and they're talking about how she wishes he could stick around. You find out he has to go out on this oil rig and she's pregnant and about to have a baby, but there's still at least a month, so he's going to be ready to rock and roll and he's going to go. So he goes out onto this rig and he ends up going down and diving. And while he's down there, he thinks that he sees another scuba diver down there, and he ends up sort of like losing connections. He's not able to talk to people and whatever. He sees a timepiece, like a watch, on the bottom of the sea, and they end up pulling him up out of the water because something's happened and he's unconscious. They pull him out of the water. They send him to the doctor. The doctor says, I can't run full tests with you on the rig, so I'm going to have to send you home. So he goes back home that same day, and he's going to be back home hanging out with his wife. So his wife and him are driving around, and she basically tells him that, go get cleaned up, go start feeling better. He tells her, he goes and takes a bath. As he takes a bath, he starts to sort of sink underwater, and he has this sort of dream of going and seeing that pocket watch again underneath the water, and then he sees all the water above him, and he ends up sort of resurfacing and sort of realizes that he's sort of maybe losing it a little bit. He tells his wife that he wants to go visit his mom, which he doesn't normally do, and she's like, okay, well, I have this meeting with our midwife tomorrow. If you can come do that, it'll be great as well. And he tells a story about how his dad used to sort of tell him this little sort of rhyme about just being at peace, sleeping on the ocean, that kind of thing, and so they fall asleep. He wakes up, but he wakes up actually in his past as a child, and he's having a dream about his dad. He is hanging out with his dad, and his dad is shaving, ends up cutting himself like he had done earlier in the book. And they go out, and his dad goes and does some diving. His dad is an underwater diver, but goes and does some salvaging. And that's when his wife wakes him up. So he goes and visits his mom. While he's visiting his mom, he goes up to look at his old room. He finds the obituary for his father, who died on Halloween night. His mom, he asked if the pocket watch his dad gave him was still there, and she doesn't remember that it's there. She doesn't remember that she's ever seen it. He talks about how he used to have a dream that he would try to swim to the other side of the world to go find his dad, and that by the first time he saw the bottom of the ocean, he was actually disappointed that he actually saw the bottom. So he's having memories of his dad having died, and has this memory of his dad salvaging all of this stuff, and gives him the pocket watch. And he suddenly then wakes up and realizes the time has passed by, and it's 7 o'clock at night, and he's completely missed the appointment with his wife. So he gets home. She's building the IKEA baby crib by herself, and really mad at him. He decides that he's so haunted by whatever happened to him out on the rig, he needs to go back out there and dive again. So he leaves his wife a letter saying, hey, I'm going to head back out to this, and takes his own boat out, and he goes and dives by himself. While he's out there diving by himself, his wife's water breaks, and she's about to have the baby, and they don't know where to get a hold of him. So while he's diving, he sees the timepiece again, and he grabs it, and he ends up sort of having this moment where he starts freaking out, and he has these memory flashing going on, and it basically transforms him back into a different time and space. So when he reemerges, he basically is in this town, and the town is completely abandoned. He's the only one there, and he's on the rig. He's trying to get a hold of people, can't get a hold of anybody. Goes home. His house is empty. Or he goes back to his parents. He starts having memories, of his dad after he had gotten the watch, taking him home to see his mom, and him telling him that he wanted his dad to start picking him up from hockey practice. He hears his parents fighting about it and that kind of thing. So he's now walking through this town. He goes back to this is when he goes back to his own house. His house is abandoned. He is in this abandoned town where there's his town, his version of it is completely empty except for himself, and he's there for long enough that he grows a beard and a mustache kind of like his father, and he wanders to the old bar that his father used to hang out at, and that's when he sees his father, and he kind of transforms back to his dad, and he's telling the story of it's from the night that his dad was supposed to pick him up from hockey practice but didn't do it, and he walked there, and he's really upset at his dad. So he goes out there and he's talking to his dad. His dad is trying to apologize for missing out on picking him up and whatever, and he's really mad. He throws the pocket watch back in the water, but he then apologizes for his dad. His dad says, well, maybe one day I'll get it for you. So he ends up sort of still wandering around town. He writes, where am I on a window? He sees all of the sort of haunting things from memories of his past of when his father died. And he decides he's going to try to leave town and try to make an effort at it. And he starts driving, and he keeps seeing the same town. So he realizes that he's stuck sort of in this town. So he starts talking about how he was always able to fix things by welding. It was easy to pick stuff back together again. So he starts building the crib himself. He decides he's going to start trying to put his life back together again, and maybe that's the way that he will get out of here. He goes back to his old house, and he sees his younger self, and he basically tells his younger self, hey man, I'm sorry, but your dad's not going to show up. And his younger self says, yes, he is. And so his younger self starts going and wandering to try to find his dad. There is, for those of you who are Jeff Lemire fans, there's a fun little reference on one of these pages. You'll see some trick-or-treaters. One of the kids is dressed up as Sweet Tooth, another character of Jeff Lemire's that he was very famous for from Vertigo Comics. For a little inside little joke for those of you who are aware of that.
He was working on when he was working on this, too.
Yeah, he was. And I love Sweet Tooth as well. But that's a totally different book. We'll get into it. So he goes looking for his dad. He doesn't find his dad, and he goes out to the bar where his dad was and tries to find his dad. And then that's when he suddenly has a realization that his dad had probably gone diving for that watch when he died, and that he was responsible for his father's death, and starts feeling a ridiculous amount of guilt. But then it actually finally starts to rain, and he starts hearing the radio, and he has having these flashbacks to when his father died, and he decides that he is going to go back in the water and try to dive and change his life. He's going to move forward, and he's going to try to be a better father than his father was, and he's going to try to be, a better man, and he's going to give up all the, sort of selfishness that he's been doing. So he goes and he dives, and he kind of, as he's diving, he sort of transforms back through his childhood, and he finds his dad underneath the water, who has his watch. And so he scuba dived down there, and so a little boy version of himself and his dad, they hug and embrace underwater, and they have this moment there. So then Jack wakes back up, and he has the watch in his hand. He's being pulled up out of the water by a fellow diver who has found him. They tell him that his wife is about to have a baby, and he needs to get home. He runs home just as the baby's being born, and he sees his child's face for the first time, and he has the pocket watch from his father in his hand, and that is where we end the story, and that's where I get all weepy.
And the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon.
Silver spoon, yeah. Anyway.
Analysis.
So that was sort of the brief. And here's the thing: it's not necessarily a completely deep plot, but it does have sort of this. It does. I just to start out with, one of the things I think this book does really well is this sort of Twilight Zone-esque transitioning between memory and current day, and sort of this Twilight Zone-ish sort of experience as this way of exploring his emotions and exploring his fears and all that kind of stuff. I think is done really, really well. This sort of flowing in and out, it's sort of memory is not sort of memory and reality in this book are not sort of a constant state. It sort of flows in and out, and the past will come up and haunt really quickly, and so it makes everything seem very current and very you feel all the drama of this kid's life, of his father dying, and all of the baggage that attends that, and him being a scared little boy and just wanting to connect with his father. And then you also feel the pressure of him not feeling like he's going to be an adequate father, and that's sort of you realize he has a sort of fear burning away from it, and that's sort of where all this sort of swept me all up in this. Who else has some thoughts they want to share with us?
Well, I was just going to kind of play off that. Usually, or sometimes in books, especially in a black and white book, when they jump back and forth like that, it's really hard to distinguish when they do. I didn't have that problem with this book. I thought it very distinctly was hey, here's the past, here's the present, here's the past, here's the present.
Yeah.
Here's memories, whereas other books, sometimes it's really hard to tell. You'll be 3 or 4 pages into the time jump and be oh, this is a different time.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, the only time it's been a little bit tricky for me in this book was doing the summary, where I'm flipping through the pages relatively quickly and not reading it. But the way that it's written, it actually, when you're reading it as is, it's not that tied up. You know what I mean? It's right. You kind of get and go along with the whole thing, and it all sort of makes sense as a cognitive whole.
Whole.
Said whole.
Jason, I'm curious from a writer's aspect what your thoughts on this are.
I was actually just going to jump into that because for me, I'm immediately pulled in when Jack and Susie are having their first conversation, because it's such a simple scene, but in comics it's really hard to do a back and forth character of just two people talking in a diner. But Jeff Lemire's writing is so good, it is able to balance that line between them teasing each other versus her being concerned that he's not going to come back versus him just being kind of adrift. And it all plays together really well and sets up not only what their life is, but what his struggle is going to be over the next few issues. And for me, the dialogue between them is really the core of it. And then also his sort of monologuing as he's just trying to figure out what he's going through in life and the end of having to come back and be present. And it's really well written. Yeah.
Adam, what are your thoughts?
So, I mean, I read this one a while back because you had, recommended it so much, and we were just having a chat, via text. And so I picked it up and just tore through it, and then I read it again today. And again, it's something that just sucks you in and won't let you go. As I stated in the last podcast, I have kind of a contentious relationship with my father, and it really dives into that thing. Was like, as a kid, you look up to your father so much, and then as an adult, you fear you're going to turn into your father. I think a lot of times because when you're a kid, your parents are like gods almost. Like they can do no wrong, even if they're not the best parents in the world. You're still really, you look up to them, and then as you become an adult, you can look back and see like, oh, this is where they made mistakes, and that relationship dichotomy you have with them changes from that being, okay, these are like people I look up to hey, these are like mentors and friends, and then you also are trying not to make the same mistakes in your life or with your kids that you saw they made with you. And with this, with this character, like he didn't get to have that. His relationship with his father was stunted because of, I don't know if we said this or not, but it's kind of hinted at that his dad died by suicide. Because of, he was, the last thing his son said to him was he was all upset with him and angry and stuff. So as he's trying to become a father himself, he's just wrestling with this, like, that's why he has to go back and, and almost in time and deal with this, because he's, like his wife and his mother says, like, he's obsessed with his father. He's like, look, he wasn't that good of a person. You need to let him go. But he was never able to fully do that because that relationship was so stunted. And I think it's really fitting that he ends with the birth of his son, because it's like, he went through all this. It was his way to train him how to be a good father and how to at least, take the first step towards doing the right thing and how to be there for his kids, because he didn't get that.
Mr. Todd, what are your thoughts? As someone who is literally feeling the pressure of about to being a father, I'm kind of curious as to what your
Dude, yeah, this is, it's just about to happen. Or do I successfully sequester it away in a deep, dark corner?
He's got to go back to work and seclude himself.
That's right. So I'm going to go there. I'm like, I'll just take a day off and go bowling. I'll be fine.
That's a reference to my grandfather, by the way, for those of you who don't know.
So it's always funny, though.
It is. Okay, I'll tell the story real fast.
All right.
Well, since you mentioned it, and then we'll get back to you. So my grandfather was a farm man, was a dairy farmer, and he really desperately wanted to have a son because that seemed to be something macho that he needed. And he had 3 daughters. So finally, when his son was about to be born, his wife was in labor, and she was telling him it's going to happen really soon. The doctor's like, you got some time. Maybe you want to go get something to eat. It was a Sunday in the small town in Utah, so the only place that was open was the bowling alley. And the way my grandfather tells it, he's a saint for what happened. But he's like, the doctors know what's going on, so he went to go get some food at the bowling alley. Well, there were some guys who were going to bowl in a league game, but they were short one player, and if he hadn't have stepped in and bowled with them, they wouldn't have been able to play in that league game. And so my grandfather, being the saint that he was, completely missed the birth of his only son because he was bowling. But he loved to tell the story, and in his version, he was a total saint. My grandmother would just roll her eyes every single time. So anyway, that's the I could just go bowling reference, is a family joke amongst my family. So anyway, Todd, please continue. It is.
No, he left to go bowling.
Oh, sorry, Todd's gone.
Bye. I don't want to think about this. What are you trying to do? Have some self-introspection going on?
A little bit. I mean, Adam's already just saved me a little bit of therapy bills by his analysis of the book.
See, there you go. Well, what's interesting here is I have a great relationship with my father, and I am incredibly lucky for it. And actually, he's my boss, too, and every day I'm grateful. I know some people that, life turns out different for everyone, but I knew some people in their early 20s, they had just gotten married, and then their parents came for them for financial help. Mm-hmm. And just different things go on like this. And every now and then I just go to my dad and say, thank you for letting me rely on you and having instead of you relying on me. Mm-hmm. And so it's very much a story of someone going is the, what is life going to be like? Is things are coming and impending, and I might dismiss it if I'm not paying attention. And then what'll be left? And that was kind of my takeaway with the here. I mean, he had his missing father, so he missed his childhood. His father missed his childhood and his adulthood. And it was left this big hole, and he went to this place of where he was missing, and he missed everyone else. So it's, for me watching it, it's just kind of a take a breath and just kind of, have a Buddhist moment of be. Is really at the end of the day, as it's coming. Stuff's coming. Life's okay. It keeps plodding on. And just kind of be.
So what we're learning from this is if you have issues with any parental figures, this book will bring it up. And if you don't have issues with parental figures, this will just make you think, just be calm and deal with life as it comes.
And being thankful.
Or it'll bring up issues you didn't know were there.
Exactly. There you go. There's always that as well.
And my dad was awesome. And if we're going to, let's flip this a little bit, because I lost my mother when I was 16. She had a heart attack and was gone. And that really sucked. And Brian was there, and Brian was the greatest friend of all because he didn't say anything about it. He just let me watch movies in his basement. And I did that.
Although your wife thought I was an asshole, by the way.
Well,
which is always funny.
But your flip side was, well, if he wants to bring it up, he'll talk about it, and I never do.
Exactly. It's like everyone wanted to ask about it, and so I didn't. So I would basically just kidnap Todd, and we'd go watch movies. Every movie that came out that summer, we saw in the theaters at least twice.
Oh, we did.
And we'd go to the movies all the time. And so when he started dating Amy, 2 years later? Maybe a year later?
Year later. Yeah.
She wanted, obviously she's dating this guy whose mom has passed, and she wants to know about it, but she doesn't want to ask the guy, so she's trying to ask him about it, and I'm like, I have no idea. She's like, really? And I'm like, I really don't. And she's like, what kind of asshole friend are you? Well, then when Amy's mom unfortunately had an accident, I did the same thing I did for Todd. I showed up, I took her to get ice cream, we went to a movie, and just treated her normally and let her have an escape from how fucked up, and then all of a sudden she goes, oh, I get it. But it was until unfortunately that happened. She thought, this guy's an asshole. Doesn't give a shit about his son's or his best friend's mom's death. Does not care at all. Which is it was kind of funny. Actually, in retrospect, it was funny.
Yeah,
it works well.
And to be honest, so when you lose a family member, you lose a friend or something like that, the thing I always hated when someone's like, oh, thoughts and prayers, wow, this and that. It's like, honestly, sometimes you're already going through your own personal hell, so you need a friend like that just to be like, hey, all right, fuck you, let's get out of the basement, let's go watch a movie, let's get ice cream, let's do whatever, because that's part of the healing process is you have to let your mind do other things and just dwell on the fact that you just lost someone you really care about.
Yeah, it was tough. As you watch if you take a look at this magnificent physique of manliness before Maya and Adam here. See?
Braggart.
Right?
Eddie?
Hey, Eddie. But no, so that happened, and I still, and what's interesting is you've got, in this book, you had this moment in life where you remember seeing his dad going off swimming or whatnot, he just didn't come back. I still remember the night I came home, I was out playing. I might have been with Brian for all I know, maybe not. Probably not. It was a school thing. Brian and I went to different high schools. So this was during the week. So Brian wasn't involved there. But I remember telling my parents goodnight and whatnot, and then my dad ended up taking my sister's boyfriends home, and my mother was having trouble breathing. So my mother and my sister left, trying to take her to the hospital, but I got woken up by my aunt saying my mom was in the hospital, and she had already she had gone into a coma at that point. So what was so crazy is I remember saying goodnight and I love you parents type of a deal, and I'm going off to bed, and then I'm getting shaken awake by my aunt going, your world has changed forever. And that's bizarre. And I think having a kid is bizarre. And what does this mean? Because I've now been with Amy for 20 years now, because I'm a fucking old man, apparently.
Well, you also started dating at a very young age, too.
It was Utah.
Yeah.
So, there is that.
Why don't you have, 10 kids already?
Oh, because my sperm don't unlock the door.
They're knocking, though.
They knock. If they get inside, they get the deed done, but they can't.
Trick or treat!
They can't pick the lock. I'm not kidding either. So, but yeah, it's weird. And then what's life going to be? It's been the two of us for 20 years, and that's great. And then with this thing, we've grown together.
This thing.
Yeah, it's still a thing. It's
a parasite.
It is a parasite.
Just for a couple more weeks.
Dude, for the next 35 years. Come on.
And by the time this episode comes out, you will be a dad.
Yeah, so there you go, kid. You can get some of my thoughts about this here. And it'll be interesting on how things are inexorably going to change. And I don't know how it's going to be. I have my thoughts about it, but the truth is I don't know. And I'm not quite sure about that because I'm usually pretty good at sussing out. But right now I'm still just kind of in this weird malaise. People are like, am I incredibly excited? I'm like, I think so, but I can't really tell you that. And
you're excited, you're terrified, you're lots of things.
It's a lot of things going on, and I'm like, it'll be fine. I mean, cavemen raised babies. I mean, I take a look at some of my extended family members, and I'm like, they're still...
Are they cavemen?
They might be.
Well, they're Republicans, yes.
So, I mean, I've got family members that have openly bragged about voting for 45. So, but they're still around, and it'll be fine. But it's kind of weird.
So when my buddy had his first kid, did I tell you the only piece of advice the nurse gave him when he walked out with his baby?
No.
Don't shake him.
And that was it.
Yeah. He's like, are you serious? Like, I'm taking home a human person, and your only advice to me is don't shake him.
Yeah, you'll figure out the rest.
Well, his kid's going to be 13 soon, so
hey,
did something right.
He's made it this far.
Made it this far. There you go. So... yeah, so this, I mean, there's introspection is occurring here, and it's a little bit, it's not quite, it's the legacy of loss, and then what is the future going to bring that might be different, and the hope. So he was dwelling on the loss but wasn't there, and then he's looking at something future that is there. So is this the missing piece that's going to fulfill, or is it just going to add to? And I still haven't decided yet. So... it's really made me think about it a lot, which I guess is a sign of good literature and the medium in there. But I haven't really settled on my feelings about this book yet.
Well, that's fair. Why don't we jump into cocktails then, since we've all been so self-introspective. We need some booze.
Cocktails.
I'm going to jump in with one that I'm calling the Captain's Son, even though there isn't a captain in here. It's sort of a seafaring town, and it's a simple cocktail. So if you need to get drunk quickly, there's a nice easy one for you. It sounds really tasty. I can't drink it because I'm on keto, but it sounds delicious. So it is 2 ounces of Captain Morgan spiced rum and 5 ounces of ginger ale. You combine the ingredients in a double old-fashioned glass, and if you want to, you can garnish with a lemon twist. Nice, simple, straightforward, to the point. Mr. Todd, what is your cocktail?
Mine's the Cannonball Rum. So... it's actually a reference. It was a drink that Bill Murray was drinking in the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Oh, okay.
So that's where this one comes from. But Cannonball Rum, and, it just sounds great. So this is 1 part white rum, 1 part gin, 1 part OJ, 1 part pineapple juice, 1 part lemon lime wedge soda. Sorry, 1 part lemon lime soda, and a part strawberry soda. So take all of these, serve it over ice with pineapple or a tropical orchid to garnish with this thing. So these are all the ingredients. I think gin and rum you can get in Canada, but I don't think any of the other ingredients.
Canada.
Thank you. So yeah, enjoy.
Okay. Let's see. Mr. Jason, what is your cocktail?
Mine is actually a virgin drink, since it's named after Susan, the wife. His 1 ounce of orange juice, half an ounce of lemon juice, 5 ounces of ginger ale, and just a dash of grenadine. You can pour over glass, stir, and if you want, you can add an orange slice or a lemon twist.
Nice and simple, to the point.
Yeah.
Also not keto friendly, but that's okay. Mr. Adam, what is your cocktail?
So mine is called the Welder, and to get started, you need to make a chili syrup. So the way you do that is you take 1 cup of water, 1 cup of sugar, 1 small red chili halved and then seeded. You add all this to a pan, you bring to a boil, and stir to dissolve everything. Once it's at a boil, you take off the heat and let it sit for 20 minutes, and then you strain the chilies out, so you just have like this, spicy, sweet syrup. And the way you make it is a shaker filled with ice. You add 1.5 ounces of bourbon, a half ounce of Aperol, 1 ounce of the chili syrup. You shake the shit out of it, and then you strain into a rocks glass with ice in it. And then you garnish, if you want, with a little red chili on top.
Fancy fucker.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Fancy Fucker himself, Mr. Maya, what is your cocktail?
So mine's a bit more of a tropical drink, but since they do live on the bay, I went with a Bay Breeze. Take 1 cup of ice, 2 ounces of cranberry juice, 2 ounces of pineapple juice, 1.5 ounce of vodka, and just mix everything together in a highball glass and garnish it with a lime.
Very sweet, straightforward, to the point. Also classic
Just like
cocktail.
me.
Yeah. Cool.
That's how my grandma died.
Parting thoughts.
Cool. Does anybody have any parting thoughts? Anything else they want to bring up about this book?
I think I'm all right.
No,
I espoused quite a bit.
I'm good. This felt like a therapy session.
It was a little bit like a therapy session. The one thing I would like to sort of mention a little bit is that some people either love or hate Jeff Lemire's art style. The way I sort of describe it is that it's sort of similar to like in the art movement of primitivism. It's sort of his art style is not as flashy and smooth as other art you will see. It has sort of like a sketchy quality, but I believe that, in my personal opinion, it adds to the emotional quality of it. It feels more like a journal. And a lot of his art, the most mainstream thing that he's probably drawn is actually Sweet Tooth. That's the thing that looks the most mainstream. But a lot of his other stuff has sort of like this more of a sketchy quality. My wife personally doesn't like his art style. I really do. But just that can be something that I just feel like probably should be mentioned. You know, some people have their own opinions on his art style. The other thing I'll say about Jeff Lemire that I really love is that I think he's brilliant, but the other thing is he also puts out a lot of work, so there's a lot of stuff to read. So it's never a situation where you're like, wow, I'm just waiting for that next book to come out by whoever.
Come on, Jeff.
He writes a lot of stuff. Yeah, he is very, very prolific, which is kind of nice. And all the stuff, but the exception of the first book of Animal Man, although the second book kind of renamed it a little bit.
I disagree with you on that.
You didn't like the second one?
No,
either?
I loved the first one.
Yeah, I didn't like the first one, but I liked the second one. So, you know, it's how it goes. So, anyway, well then, so if we're going to start getting into some dissenting arguments, let's go ahead with final grades.
Final grades.
For self-contained, which it is one.
Do we even need to vote for this?
No, you know what? I'm skipping that one for this week.
Okay.
Like we should have skipped it last week as well, but I'm gonna skip it for this week.
Writing grade.
Okay, so we'll go for writing for Mr. Lemire. It's Mr. Jeff Lemire for both of them. For writing, what is your grade, Mr. Todd?
You know, I'll give this an A-. I really enjoyed it. It was going through, and I've been chewing on it and thinking about it for quite some time. So yeah, A-.
Mr. Maya?
I'm going to give it an A. I read it when it first came out, which I didn't realize was as long ago as it was. And it was nice and refreshing to reread it again, and I forgot just how much I liked it. So A.
Mr. Jason?
It's an easy A for me, both in the dialogue and the narration of the story itself and the scene headings. It's all around very, very well done.
Mr. Adam?
I'm going to go with an A as well. This book is really well written. The emotion comes across so very strong and poignantly, and you know, like I said, it hit home with me because my relationship with my dad hasn't always been the best, and even nowadays, it's still, you know, it's a friendly thing, but it's not what you know, some guys have with their dads. So for me, it really hit home, and I think this is just an amazing book that anyone can read and enjoy. So
cool. So then we will. Oh, and my grade, I'm going to go with an A. Obviously, I love this book. I recommended it, and hopefully, this will make up for my Deadpool recommendation.
Yeah, I'm still upset with you about that.
Never forget.
I know.
Never.
I'm still waiting for someone to recommend something else shitty so that it will no longer be. I'm just the most recent one.
I'll just purposely recommend something shitty. That way, I'll take the fall.
Take the blame. You'll take the bull.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want that to happen though, because I don't want to have to read something shitty.
Art grade.
For art, for also Mr. Jeff Lemire, what is your grade, Mr. Adam?
I'll go with an A as well. I mean, it's very ephemeral. It's definitely weird and strange, and because of the fact that a lot of it, decent parts of it, take place underwater, you really get that across. It's a little bit different than what I'm used to. The style's kind of off, but at the same time, for being a black and white comic, it really punches you kind of, you know, right in the face of making you pay attention to what you need to.
I'm going to also go with an A. I understand this art style is not necessarily for everybody, including I know my wife does not like Jeff Lemire's art, but I love it. So for me, I really like it. And if you do like Jeff Lemire's art style, I would say Matt Kint is similar in this sort of sketchy quality of his work.
Check out
Mind
Management.
Mind Management is one I've been reading. I also really like Department H. I think is also very good. And I'll recommend some other Jeff Lemire books for my recommendations at the end of the book.
I have one as well.
Oh, I'm sure. Okay, well, me and Mr. Meyer will duel on Jeff Lemire recommendations because I have a full shelf of it. From your art grade, Mr. Jason, what is your grade?
It's an A. I think you're right, it doesn't appeal to everyone, but I think for the story especially, it works. It's a very gritty, unpolished look, kind of like a film from the 70s. I think it works for the locale and the story. I think it's great.
Mr. Maya?
I'm there with an A as well. I've always liked Jeff Lemire's art because he doesn't do it on just any book. It seems like whenever he does draw a book, his art complements that book. And I thought it did here, so I'm going with an A.
Cool. And Mr. Todd?
I'm going to go with a B+. I mean, it was good, it was well done, but it's a B+ for me.
Final grades.
Cool. So then, for overall grades, what is your grade, Mr. Todd?
A-.
Mr. Maya?
I'm going to go with an A. I really like this book quite a bit.
Okay. Mr. Adam?
I'm going to go with an A. I absolutely love this book. I really enjoyed it when you recommended it to me, and reading it again today just reminded me of just how this book just means a lot to me, because I've already explained why, but it's one that everyone should read. So
I'm gonna go with an A as well. I really love this book. I love the hell out of it, and even though it makes me cry, I really love it. And Mr. Jason, what is your grade?
It is also an A, shockingly.
Okay.
Grade point average.
That brings us to a grade point average of 3.94, which is an A-, just not quite an A. Thanks a lot, Todd. No, it's fine. That's still a really great grade point average. So I still think that's fair.
Next week on Funny Books on Firewater.
So next week we're doing Starve. We're doing both trades of it. So what is that, 12 issues?
Yes, 12 issues of Starve.
Okay.
So Brian Wood...
never mind. I was thinking Death of the Family was next week. I forgot we had another
we're doing
week.
Death of the Family last. We're doing the last one is Death of the Family.
I didn't realize there were 5.
Yeah, there are. Surprise!
Hey!
So, Todd, why don't you give us a little preview as to what the book is we're going to encounter next week?
All right, so the book is written by Brian Wood. We've read his stuff in the past, Mara, DMZ, even Alien Defiance were all things that we've reviewed on a show. So what Starved is, it's kind of a cross between Running Man, Iron Chef America, and is what's going on here. And a little bit of Death Race 2000 mixed into. So the drawing and the art style is very reminiscent of DMZ in a lot of ways. So if you dug that, you'll love it. If you hate that, you'll hate it. And it's a whole lot of fun.
The other thing that we're planning on doing for next week, and hopefully this all works out, I have shipped some hot sauces over to Todd. Todd's shipping some hot sauces to me.
Yes.
We are going to rip off blatantly one of Todd and I's favorite YouTube TV shows, Hot Ones, and we're going to have a hot sauce challenge while we're reading this book. And we'll probably put up some of the videos of that on YouTube as well. So if you want to watch us be whiny bitches and burn our mouths, or you want to hear us burn our mouths while eating ridiculously hot sauces, which I told some people about the one, like the three of the 4 I have are actually not bad. The last one I have is holy shit.
Right. We're ripping it off to such a detail. I bought the same hot sauce, the end hot sauce, as this YouTube show. It's called The Last Dab. And
and they actually make it themselves. So
yeah, they make it themselves. It's a naturally growing pepper, and it I think the hot sauce comes in at 2.2 million Scoville. And
because Pepper X is like what, 3.3 million?
It's something to that effect. So the hot sauce itself comes in. Oh yeah, it's mean. And the peppers, there's 2 different kinds of Pepper X peppers in there, and they're listed primarily in the hot sauce. And it's not a 3rd, 4th, or 5th item. It's items 1 and 2. So it's mostly of these peppers and whatnot. So it's going to be awful and great fun.
Don't sugarcoat it.
I'm going to love it.
Jason, will you be joining us for that?
I would. Love to.
Recommendations.
So let's jump into recommendations. Mr. Maya, what is your recommendation?
So if you like this book and you like kind of slice of life anthology books, check out Essex County by Jeff Lemire. It's kind of an anthology. I think it was originally 3 different stories, maybe 4.
It was 3 different graphic novels that they got combined into one thing. He also won like a Canadian literature prize.
This is the Essex County, if I remember correctly, which I might not, was like the first big thing that he got noticed for. And that kind of led to his working at DC and in Marvel and other places.
Winner of the American Library Association Alex Award, winner of the Doug Wright Award, winner of the Joe Shuster Award. It was actually like the top, like number 5 Canadian novel of the year. Not even necessarily graphic novels, but like novel of the year.
It came out in what, like 2008? I think.
Something like that. Yeah. 2009 is the complete version of it. So it was coming out before then. It says on the myification on the inside label, it says farm life, family drama, hockey, and graphic novels.
Okay.
Yeah, that probably is one of his masterworks, actually. Cool. Well, so then I will also jump in on that. For other Jeff Lemire books that I really like, if you like this, I would also recommend a series that he just did called Royal City, which is about a family dealing with the death of one of the siblings, and their father has gone into has had I think a stroke, so they're all going back. The family's all kind of recombining in their old hometown, and they each are sort of haunted by a different version of the ghost of their brother that died or their son that died, and they all view him as sort of like this different person. The mother who views him as a priest and a saint. The daughter views him as a little child that she still needs to take care of. One of the sons views him as a drinking buddy. The other son kind of views him as the same age that they lost him. And the father, I can't remember what the father views him as, but that one's pretty great. The other one I would recommend is Descender, which he just wrote, but he didn't illustrate it. But it's his epic space drama, which I think is pretty fantastic as well. About a robot that was built to be a playmate for a child who was powered down and then gets powered up 10 years later, and his adult child has grown up, and the world is now terribly afraid of robots, and he's trying to find his former best friend who is now a grown old man. So, Mr. Todd, do you have recommendations?
I do. A little bit of a left turn on there, but I got somewhat recently the omnibus for 7 Soldiers of Victory by Grant Morrison.
So good.
So, I mean, and it's... Maya can expound on this a little bit more, but it's the 7 characters going through here. You got Zatanna and Frankenstein and
Zatanna, Frankenstein, the Guardian, Clarion, the Witch Boy, Bulleteer. Who are the other 2? Mr. Miracle, and Shining Knight.
And Shining Knight. So he really took these characters when they were kind of left on the shelf for quite a while, and he fired them back up again.
Yeah, and the Mr. Miracle in there is not
Scott-free.
Scott-free. It's Shiloh Norman. It's the second Mr. Miracle.
Sure. So yeah, but it's filled with Grant Morrison awesomeness. So I've got Adam's attention here as it goes through, and it's all sorts of good fun.
The best thing about it, or the thing I think it's funny, is so they're a superhero team, but they never meet each other until the final issue. Like this threat kind of works its way into their lives. It was originally 7 4-issue miniseries, 1 for each character, bookended by 2 one-shots. And yeah, they never actually meet each other until they're facing kind of the final threat in the very last issue, which I thought was kind of interesting and cool.
Yeah.
Mr. Adam, do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, so there was I was at my friend's house the other night for board game night, and they broke out this game called Shadow Hunters. It's like $25 on Amazon, and it's kind of fun because it's kind of like Werewolf or Secret Hitler, where everyone has their own identity and no one knows what it is. You could be a hunter, you could be a bad guy, you could be just a neutral person. And the way it works, you roll dice, and depending on what you roll, you move to certain cards on the board to let you do things. So you can draw a black card, which can attack people. You can draw a white card, which could be like equipment or something good happen to you. Or the green card lets you give it to someone, and only you two see what it says, but it's like if you're a shadow or a hunter, you have to take 1 damage. So if they take no damage, then you know that this person's a neutral person. And then everyone's got their own life bars, everyone has their own basically way to win the game. And then if you want to, you can actually reveal your character to use its special powers, which could be attacking someone, it could be healing damage, whatever you want. It's really, really fun. It only takes about 20 minutes to play, and it's definitely something that there's a lot of replay value. So it's a really cool, fun little game.
Nice.
Just like Gavin.
Okay. And Mr. Jason, do you have any recommendations?
Since we're in the middle of the family drama month and people are going to be around their families for better or for worse during the holidays, I'm going to recommend a tonic to help deal with that stress. It's the Great British Bake Off Show, or the Great British Baking Show in the US. And it's just a wonderful escape for whatever ails you.
Okay. I like it. So join us next week for Starve and for us burning our mouths on hot sauces because we're morons. But I've always wanted to try this, so I'm glad that I have other, stupid people to try this with me. Because after watching this show, I'm like, I just want to see how hot this really is. So prepare for us to be stupid. I guess that's going to be it for this week. Until next week, thanks for listening, and we will see you later.
Bye. Bye.
So that happened. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode. This band of knuckleheads will be back next week with a new episode. Until then, you can find them on Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr as Funny Books and Firewater, and on Twitter as @FirewaterCast. Go to funnybooksandfirewater.com for the most up-to-date information, as well as cocktail recipes from this and past episodes. Thank you for joining us. And until next week, support your local comic shop, tip your bartender well, and stay hydrated.